everyone, and welcome to the Notre Dame Football Friday Happy Hour live show brought to you by irishsportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me today from Locked On Irish is Tyler Wojciak. He's a recurring guest on this show, so we're very happy to have him back. And he has brought his consigliere, his associate, Luke Smith, who's, I think it's always Tuesdays, I believe it is, the regularly scheduled Luke Smith hour, or half hour, I should say, on the Locked On Irish podcast. Luke is here. Luke, welcome. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat about another MAC opponent coming to South Bend and what may happen there.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, SEC, no problem. Big Ten, no problem. MAC, big problem. Big problems with the MAC opponents that Notre Dame's bringing into their stadium. So, I wonder if they're going to do the thing where they walk around the stadium and take pictures and are in awe of everything before the game, like most teams do when it's like a rare event. Chuck Martin's the head coach. He's been around Notre Dame a bunch, so I don't know if he has his team doing that, but that's a thing that they're going to be doing. So we're just going to be chatting about the game, chatting about how we feel about the team a quarter of the way through, and where we think the season's going. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we're going to go live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, this show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. Luke, are you still in Chicago?
I am, yeah.
You can head down to ESQ headquarters on, I think, I don't know exactly.
I think it's Lake Street. I've passed it many a time.
LaSalle Street. They're in Chicago. They finally restocked, but you know what? You don't even need to head down there, Luke. That's the thing, because all their bamboo dress shirts are posted online. They have been restocked. You've seen them on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. They're made from proprietary fabric that's cooler and softer than cotton. It's the best shirt for any occasion. Go to esqclothing.com. Use ISD15 to get 15% off your order. That's ISD15 to get 15% off your order. There was a big controversy, I think, at the start of the college football season about, like, be a grown-up, don't complain about wedding season during the football season. Luke, the people in your life have not heeded that call. You have not seen a game live in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I need to get your emotions, right? Like, I need the NIU game. How did you take it in? What were you following on your phone? How did you experience that?
So that's a particularly challenging one to answer because I was at a wedding at the Naval Academy and the reception was in, I guess it was like an alumni center at the Naval Academy. And it was a Notre Dame guy marrying like a Naval Academy family girl. And what I noticed is when we were in this little room in the cocktail hour, conveniently, whoever at Navy had set this room up had put up like little placards showing all the scorecards of years Navy had beaten Notre Dame over the last like 10 to 15 years, just across this room, because there were quite a few Notre Dame people at this wedding. So that is the backdrop, as there's a little TV on to the side showing Notre Dame struggling with NIU in the first half. So that was already a tense situation. And then you get into dinner and speeches, and you have 4 people crowding around a phone screen as speeches are going on, watching Notre Dame's undefeated season drift away. So that was not exactly the best for vibes. We'll leave it at that.
That's horrifying. Yeah. I am horrified by that story. I mean, they're already trolling you.
Yeah.
And then they lose to the MAC team.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
It really was. I think that everybody largely rebounded for the most part. I'm going to give myself more credit than other Notre Dame fans who probably weren't as in good of spirits as I was. I tried to, push that to the side for the next 6 hours and stew the next day. But yeah, it was not great. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Evan was at the game. I don't know what's worse, honestly. I don't know if it's worse to be at the game and experience it live, or to be trolled at a Naval Academy wedding. It's just, oh my gosh. Can't even get that mad because it's the troops. You got to support the troops. Austin Bradley says band fall weddings. Well, you were at a wedding last weekend as well.
It was
a little different experience, I assume. But you get to go this weekend. You're going to be in attendance.
Indeed, and I'm really excited to get back to South Bend. I don't think I've been back to South Bend since the Pitt game last year, so we're looking at, I don't know, I guess almost 10, 11 months. It's
Yeah.
probably the longest away from Notre Dame I've been in my lifetime, to be honest with you. There were no basketball games because not a whole lot to see.
I was going to just say you didn't make it in to see
No.
Micah Shrewsbury squad one time.
I did not. So I'm excited to get back. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. My girlfriend went to Miami of Ohio, so a bit of a house divided situation. This will be her second Miami game and fourth Notre Dame game ever. So that's kind of the mentality about football in Oxford, I guess, in a nutshell. But should be a fun weekend.
I feel like, Tyler, as long as I've been, internet friends with you guys for a few years now. And the running bit is Luke is always saying, like, I'm not going to this game. I can't make it happen. And then, like, on the recap show, it's like, okay, just got back from the game, and this is what happened. So, look, hopefully you're able to turn things around. Luke, you're kind of my go-to person for the vibes and the stadium DJ. What are you hearing on that front? We just discussed we're all going to be there next week at the Louisville game. So what are you hearing as far as the stadium DJ situation?
So I was actually just looking at my texts from during the NIU game, and somebody specifically texted me, there's another new DJ. He's not very good either. In more explicit terms, honestly, if we're being frank. But so I will have to judge for myself tomorrow. I'm a little bit worried, to be honest, about the crowd tomorrow, because if this is like Notre Dame goes and it's 10-7 in the second quarter or something like that, like I think you could get a really angsty crowd. And it's weird, but it's almost like this team enjoys playing on the road more than they do at home, at least to date. And I'm very curious to see how that all unfolds tomorrow.
Well, I was talking to Jamie about it. Like, I think the problem with playing these types of teams is, like, Notre Dame, I feel like if you get to the third quarter and it's close, in some ways, like, I think the fans and maybe the players, I don't know how the players feel about this, but, like, it's almost feel like, well, they lost already. Like, the game is actually already lost. Like, you're supposed to win by 28. You're only up a point in the middle of the third. We lost. Like, we played bad. Everyone's groaning. Everyone's upset. I mean, the amount of puckering that's going to go on if this game is tied in the second quarter, it's going to be epic proportions. So that's kind of like, that's my concern, right? Like, one team is trying to win by any means necessary, and Notre Dame has to win a certain kind of way, right? It has to look like, if Riley Leonard has thrown a touchdown pass at the end of the first half, like, people are gonna want him out of the game. Like, that's just true. Tyler, you said on your show this week, people are very, very upset with Riley Leonard. You used the word hate, and you texted me the same. Why do you feel like that? Why do you get that kind of? Why do you go to that level with the way people feel about it?
The funniest outcome in all of this is that somehow, some way, Luke and I have kind of become some, like, pro Riley Leonard, the Leonard Defense Corps. Like, that's how the tables have turned, because last year we were pretty openly skeptical about Riley Leonard when he was the quarterback at Duke. And before that game, I was like, look, I think he's a great athlete. We didn't really see it. When Notre Dame got him, we're like, okay, I understand why they went out and added someone in the transfer portal. From a fit perspective, it makes sense. But we had some clear concerns about his accuracy, his throwing ability, and we voiced those opinions. And now the reaction has been so strong in the other direction. I feel like I'm like, okay, he's not that bad in terms of what he's done so far for Notre Dame. And yes, as I always have to state, Northern Illinois was an embarrassment. He played terribly. He should not have been out there. And I contest that the blame should be directed at the coaches for the way that second half played out, because if Steve Angeli comes in that game, I am so confident that they win. But it's kind of the point where I think Notre Dame fans, and I think there's a bunch of things that kind of involved here. The fact that he's paid, the fact that he's only going to be at Notre Dame for 1 year, the fact that he was elected as a captain, despite the fact that he's only been around for 9 months. There's a lot of angst, and fans, I feel like at this point, they had a short leash with him, and that is gone, basically. A lot of fans are done with him. They're tired of hearing about him, and any defense for Riley Leonard is looked at as basically, one guy said that we were getting a portion of his NIL money. Like it's reached a level where I think it's actually gone too far. And I'm not really sure why, because he seems like a great person overall. And the guys seem to really like him. But there's just a lot of tension with the Notre Dame fan base right now. And I can't even fault him after you lose to Northern Illinois.
I think the interception was that bad.
Yeah, that was like the worst throw I've ever seen.
It was really not, like, you could not do that. Like, to that point, he was obviously not playing well, but he hadn't played that bad, right? And I think that just, because people were already like noticing, like, they haven't thrown deep yet. Like, they haven't thrown deep at all, like in the first 2 games. And then the one time they do, it's totally short. It's totally ugly. And it was a total disaster, right? And I think for me, I was shocked. Like, it really took me aback. Like, I didn't really think about Riley Leonard in terms of like a quarterback change or anything. And that moment happened, and I was like, whoa, like, we got to take a step back on like everything. So that's kind of how I viewed that. I'm interesting. There's something about, like, so we're talking about the DJ, the stadium DJ. This is kind of off topic, but that's what this show is about. Where are you guys at on the light show thing? It's not going to be a deal for this week or the week after, because it's not a night game. Which, first of all, like, congratulations to Notre Dame and NBC. Like, the biggest game of the year is going to be on Peacock at 3:30.
Yeah.
Not good, right? Like, they completely botched that. But where are you at on like the light show thing? Like, they're trying to replicate what Georgia was doing kind of back in the day. Where do you guys fall on that?
So I think when they first did it against North Carolina, that was really cool, and it was a good show. It also helped that right after that, Kyron Williams took the ball 91 yards to the house.
Yeah.
So that it electrified the place even more. But I remember even the next week, because that was like a gauntlet of night games. Notre Dame played USC at home, and they did it, and I was really excited for that because I thought it had been really good the week before. And then it happened, and I was like, I didn't think it was as good as the week before. And admittedly, like during the Ohio State game last year, I think I was so nervous about the actual game that I kind of just blacked out what was going on around me with the light show. So I don't have a real opinion on it, but I think like now it's kind of like, this might be a little bit overdone. Let's see if we can switch it up. It is kind of humorous to think about the notion of them doing a light show for an 0-8 or 0-9 Florida State team coming in November when it's 30 degrees. But I don't know. Maybe it might be time to go back to the drawing board.
I can't believe they haven't considered flexing these games. Like, that Florida State game needs to be on Peacock.
The Louisville game is a total flex. Like, you need to move it to prime time. Because look, knock on wood, Notre Dame wins this game. And I think, Look, Michael Hahn says NBC wants to drive business to Peacock. Keep it on Peacock then. I think that's
every
totally
game
fine.
Is on Peacock.
Right. Like,
sure.
keep it on Peacock. I don't care. They need to flex out of this 12th. They need to make it a night game. They do. I don't know. I'm sure the rest of the schedule doesn't permit it, but like they got to flex out of it because it's.
You know why they won't do that? I don't think NBC would let them, because I think that's Georgia, Alabama that night.
It is.
Is that like a big game, or what is that like?
I think a little bit more people will be tuned into that one.
I don't know, dude. Georgia, they didn't look good against Kentucky. Oh gosh. All right, Brendan McElhennon of OFD, welcome. If Chuck Martin loves Notre Dame as much as he claims, he'll be receptive to a blowout like he was in 2017. So Brendan's Brendan, put in the chat where this came from. He put something in the DMs. It was an excerpt from a prediction. Basically, like, there's too much mutual respect between the two staffs for Notre Dame to, I don't want to say run up the score, put up 66, right? And look, when they brought in Angeli at the end of the first half, or not even the end, like the start of the second half, they were throwing the ball with him, right? Angeli threw the ball deep like a number of times. Where do you come? I think I know where Luke comes out on that, but where do you come out on that notion?
What, that Notre Dame should not
like it's 49-0, right? And look, I think the first one where Purdue goes for it on 4th down at their own 30 and they don't get it, right? Like, that's just an RPO play. Like, that's nothing. But like after that, like, just the idea of I'm going to put in our backup quarterback and we're running the offense. We're chucking it deep. We're running slot fades. We're running go like double verts onto the wide side of the field. Like, where are you at with that? I think I know, but let's talk about it.
I don't think they will hold back at all, especially after what they did against Purdue. It should be addressed, though, that if Notre Dame really decided, hey, we want to do this, they could have put up 100 points on Purdue. Like, they would have come really close. If they decided, you know, at the second half, we're going to go out there with our starters, 100 was in sight. So I think if that same team shows up on Saturday, they are absolutely capable of blowing this team out. I just don't know if it's going to be an option because I just don't expect to see the same team that we saw last week translate over to this week, because human nature, the weird thing about playing at home versus away with this team. So I'd like to see them really kind of keep their foot on the gas, especially in the second half. Hopefully with Riley Leonard out there a little bit more, because I understood why you brought in Steve Angeli for the second half of Purdue. It was 42-0. But like, if Notre Dame is up 28-7 going into the second half, like, they should really force the ball downfield with Riley and try to put up as many points as possible. Like, does Marcus Freeman even know Chuck Martin? Like, I don't think there's as much mutual respect. It's just more from one side.
I think, I don't know who on the staff has a connection to Chuck Martin beyond Denbrock, right? Obviously Denbrock does.
Thielen, maybe, just because he played there.
Oh yeah. That's a good point.
I guess also the reason I don't have a problem with what Notre Dame did last week is Purdue kept playing their starters the entire game. And like, if your starters are that bad, you deserve to get 66 put up on you. Like, I guess that's kind of where I fall on that.
I think that's true. Like, they did play their starters the whole time. I think because it was so bad so early, like, it's not Notre Dame's problem. Like, you can't, especially because of last week. And Brendan put in the chat, it was Samson. So Samson put in his prediction piece. I think he said 37-13. I think is what he predicted the score as. He just said he was the one who said mutual respect and things of that nature. I do think the NIU game kind of changes the calculus of all this stuff, right? Absolutely. Like, Notre Dame can't afford to like throw away an entire half, right? We can't just run inside zone for 30 minutes, right? Like, you gotta work on things, especially with Angeli, even Minchie, right? Like, look, these are our quarterbacks. We got to get the quarterback ready. I do think, like, Brendan was on the OFD pod and he was like, CJ Carr should run the 2-minute drill at the end of the game. I think that is a little bit like uncool, right?
Yeah, that would be a little bit much.
It's a little uncool to be clear. And look, his point is like, look, it's not our feelings are not your problem, that we have things we need to work on. Like, get things on tape for CJ Carr to evaluate, right? Evaluate your player, evaluate your players, right? Like, it's not our problem to deal with whatever your problems are with, like, running up the score or whatever. Like, it is what it is. But I do think the NIU game, specifically to this contest, like, I don't think if it's 28-7, you have to leave in Riley Leonard. Like, you have to continue to play because Notre Dame's already lost to a MAC team.
Right.
The last time, like, the fans last time we were in the stadium, like, it was a poop show, right? Like, I feel like they're justified in doing that. I got to put up this comment from Drunk Vigo. Tyler looks swole.
He does. Yeah.
Good job by you, Tyler.
Drunk Vigo is the one who asked if me and Luke were taking NIL money from Riley Leonard from
that's fantastic. In the comments,
Freeman. Wow. Thank you, Drunk Vigo.
He's been lifting with Marcus Freeman.
Wait, real quick. Do you guys remember what the halftime score was of Miami Notre Dame in 2017?
It wasn't it like 42-0 or something like that? It was bad. It was like within 3 minutes of the second quarter, it was already like a 30-point game.
It was.
Take a shot.
I'll say 37-0.
It was 45-14, and I'll admit I have a bit of a blind spot.
Is kind of amazing.
Yeah. I'll admit, like, this game, as Luke recalls, I had literally 30 friends visiting from home. So it was kind of like herding cats that whole weekend to make sure
that everyone. Was this your senior year?
Yeah, this is my senior year.
Okay.
Luke's junior year. So there was a lot going on in that game as I try to just wrangle everyone, make sure that they were all there and got to actually witness the game. But Notre Dame scored. Josh Adams had a 73-yard touchdown run in the second play of the game. They absolutely embarrassed Miami. So I guess I want to know, do you guys think it'll be similar to that? I mean, that Miami team finished 5-7. I don't think this Miami team is going to be as good as they were last year, but it does seem like they've taken some pretty significant steps in the right direction. So it should be a blowout, but I think they'll at least be competitive.
Where are you at with this, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, sneakily, and I really haven't heard this discussed in any of the pregame chatter. Like, Miami is already 0-2, and I know that they've played 2 Power 4 teams, or not. Well, yeah, 2 Power 4 teams. But like, if you go to 0-3, even if the rest of your schedule is mainly a MAC schedule, like that's just a tough place to come back from. So I almost feel like they have to be somewhat competitive just to like show some signs of progress. Like if you listen to anything Chuck Martin said this week, I don't think he has any expectations of winning this game. But I think that they have to be almost competitive, at least for a little bit, so that they can take something moving forward with the rest of their season when they're going to start 0-3.
They're the only team in the nation that is starting the season with 3 straight Power 4 opponents. So that's the only team in the nation. That the AD really put it to him on that. I mean, that's insane. And then the third one is Notre Dame, right? So that's difficult. Beefeater ND08, not a fan of the person on the field screaming at the fans during timeouts. It is the exact opposite of awesome, like having Joey Behar spotting Tyler when ups his bench press to 175 pounds.
Yeah, I agree with that. That is often irritating.
What is that? What I don't know what that is. What is he talking about there?
It's I think what he's referring to is just like the in-game entertainment where it's usually somebody with the mic either talking to a little kid or screaming like to somebody in the student section about let's look at the Jumbotron and do this.
Yeah.
The in-game entertainment in general could be improved in a big way.
In defense of the DJ, though, going back to the NIU thing, like, is there a playlist that would work for that game when you're losing to a MAC school in the home opener? I'll never forget the Toledo game in 2021, Luke, when we were in serious danger of losing that game, and the fans started doing the wave. I think you almost had a conniption in the crowd when that started.
Yeah, the Cincinnati one was especially bad. I remember like a lot of like upbeat music being played as the game was over, basically, and there needed to be a stern conversation. That was still in Sticky Boots' reign, so that was not a great showing that day.
Okay, post Cincinnati. I guess 2021 post Cincinnati. Where were you guys on the like Drew Pine's got to be Notre Dame's starter? Where were you guys on that? Because Buckner he was playing okay at that point, but he had just thrown a terrible interception in that game in the Cincinnati game. He's a true freshman. Right. And Drew Pine he came in and scored all the points basically. Where were you guys on that? Were you like it's got to be Drew Pine, Jack Cohn, like this isn't working out kind of thing?
I don't think we ever said Drew Pine should start. And I think a big reason why was because before the season, I remember hearing from someone who talked to the staff, and the way they put it was like, staff is very high on Tyler Buckner, is very low on Drew Pine. And that was before he even stepped out there on the field. So even though he came out there, it almost felt like a bit just a one-hit wonder, so to speak. I don't think we ever went that far, but I think we were calling for Buckner to start. I don't really remember.
Yeah, I think I definitely was, and I think I'd be lying if I said that I envisioned the bounce back that Jack Cohn had really since the last drive of that Virginia Tech game and on the rest of that season. I mean, that there wasn't a ton of evidence that was going to happen, and it did. So I have to give him credit there. That was definitely not something I was predicting.
I think I was definitely like, you can't ride with Cohn anymore. Yeah. I mean, I was like pretty adamant about that, right? Just like he's immobile. He's not seeing I kind of a lot of the stuff we're saying about Riley Leonard right now, except for the mobility piece, which obviously he has. But like, it was kind of the same stuff. Like he's not seeing the field. He doesn't know where to go with the ball. The offensive line can't protect him. And since they can't protect him, like he can't be on the field, like you got to go with some mobility. And then they completely changed the offense. They went more RPO based. They're getting the ball out quickly and things of that nature. But I do remember post Cincinnati. I mean, this is pre me working for ISD, but I was already talking to them, and I had already talked to Matt, and I had said, that they got to go with you got to go with Pine or Buckner or whatever. And Matt had told me he had heard Matt Pine graded out really bad in that game, even though he put up the points. And I think the point of that is we don't know how, I think a lot of the conversations about Riley Leonard right now, people are having, where it's, he's not seeing the field. He's not coming off his first read. He's missing open receivers, which I think is I think the most incorrect thing people are saying right now is there's a bunch of receivers running free and he's not hitting them. I think that is the film shows that is not correct. But I think we don't know how the coaches grade this stuff. We don't know how they grade, what should have happened in this game, how they some of the bad plays, the play with the one that, got blown up on Twitter this week about how he missed Jeremiah Love. He was running free. I'll bet you he got a plus grade for that just because of the way that he went through his progressions. And he scrambled for a first down on 3rd and 5, right? I think it was probably justifiable not to throw that pass, or that he wasn't looking right when he kind of needed to. So I think that's the piece where it's everyone's he's got to make this throw. He's not making this throw. I bet you got a plus grade for that.
It was 3rd down too.
Yeah, it was 3rd and 5.
Critical part of that whole thing was he ran for the first down easily. It was right there.
Yeah. And I think it's also easy for anybody to look at film, so to speak, and just take a screenshot of when it looks like a receiver's open. And I think that's a lot of what's happening right now, is not understanding really the context of maybe even what the quarterback was asked to do or what the offense was asked to do, and just pulling up, oh, look at this screen grab right here. He's got all these receivers open. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot. And I think that's what football fans in general tend to do. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Rome Odunze's dad is doing that right now too, in terms of Caleb Williams. So it happens at every level.
That is tough.
Yeah.
Oh man,
2 games.
I mean, it's
2 games.
Yeah,
2 games in, and it's just, man, that is not I would not be doing that. Definitely. If my son, if my son ever makes it to the NFL, I will not be screenshotting him being wide open as a rookie wide receiver. Mitchell Vahiluk says, or asks, is football the most understood sport from a casual fan's perspective? There's so much going on that isn't apparent to the untrained eye. What do you say, Tyler? You're nodding your head over there.
I think it definitely is, because I feel like I've watched so much football in my life, and there's just so much that I just don't know. And I think we could say that about a lot of different aspects of football. It could be offensive line play, defensive line play, what the quarterback's progressions are. And it's easy to fall into the trap of oh, he should have done this because this is how it looks on my television screen. And honestly, now the way football is played, there's so much action that is not even on the television screen. At least with basketball, you can see everything.
Yeah.
But with the way that football is typically shot and where the safeties are and the wide receivers, you just miss a ton that's not on the screen. So I think without a doubt, it's the most misunderstood.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think basketball, I can pretty much pick up on defenses, offenses, out of bounds plays that are being run. It's pretty easy to pick up on. Football, there's so many nuances that I probably don't even realize exist on a play-to-play basis. So I think that's a good point and probably a valid one.
Mark with glasses. Twitter is full of all 22 film breakdown experts now, or at least they think they are.
It's true.
You better not be taking a shot at me, Mark with glasses, because we're gonna have some words. No, it is, and I think especially line play. I've really tried to steer away from line play, criticisms or whatever, and just kind of point out this block was missed by someone, right? Someone needs to pick up this person. I don't know who, and I don't want to go into it, right? Tyler, we were kind of texting about this with just we were kind of texting about this, about how people were breaking down film and things, and Riley Leonard should have done this or he should have done that. And I think it's like, look, he did what he did. Why did he do that? Why do you think he did that? And is it reasonable? I think that, especially when it comes to the quarterback, like you have to think about, is it defensible that he made this decision? And that goes back to like the play that with missing Jeremiah Love. Obviously, if he sees him right at the right moment, let the ball go, right? Like for sure. You don't have to pass that up. Like there's no safety around there. Just let it go. But is it defensible that he looked or he saw him late and said, I'm not really sure where this other safety is. So I'm going to just tuck this and run it. It's 3rd and 5. I have space. I'm just going to tuck it and run it. We're going to first on with my day. And by the way, this decision's getting made in like a split second, right? So that's obviously very difficult. So like I try not to bang on a guy for it's like, is it defensible that he did this action? If it is, then I'm not gonna draw it up. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna move on. Cause like that's the part where it's like there does have to be some humility about like, I don't know where they're even being coached. You know, I don't know what they're telling him. I don't know if they're telling Riley Leonard, hey, if you scramble out of there and you're not sure, just go, man. Just don't pause and look around. Just get out of there. I don't know that they're not telling him like, hey, if you go through the first 2 reads here, don't even look to the other side of the field. Just go make a play. I don't know that that's not happening either. And like, that's the part where I think people need to just have some humility about it. And look, I need to as well, right? Like I try to check myself on that stuff all the time. Like I got in trouble in past years, like it's specifically with Jack Cohn. When I started doing the Twitter thing, breaking down plays, like I was way out of pocket on some of that stuff where it's like, you might be right, but you might be wrong. You might be completely wrong. And then you're putting it out there like this guy did the wrong thing. You don't even know that for sure. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Getting into the why of it all is so important because I think the easiest thing you can do at any level of this industry across all sports, basically just all of broadcasting in general, the easiest thing to do is say this good thing is good and this bad thing is bad. And you can get really animated when you say it. You could use a bunch of choice words, but that's not really good analysis at all. And I think that's kind of what happened with Riley Leonard. Like no one is saying that he's been a really good threat passing the ball downfield this year, but it's gotten to the point where I was like, oh, it's impossible. He can't do it. He's literally not capable of doing it. I just think that's false because he's done it before at the college level. But eventually, he needs to do it at Notre Dame. And I'd like for him to do it this weekend so that we're not having the same discussion next Friday before the biggest game on the schedule, or at least for the next couple months, and saying, I don't know if he can do it in a Notre Dame uniform. He needs to do it, and he needs to do it tomorrow, please, for all of our sakes.
Frank is here. I just want to know who yelled at Greg for a Cone play breakdown. You know what? Like, there have been times, like when a high school coach, random high school coach from some high school, it has hit me up on DMs being like, I don't know that this is right. And we've talked about it. And, you know, we talk it over and it's like, it's possible that you're correct, but it's possible you're not. And that's cool. Like people, you know, like I get educated and things like that. Like that's a cool thing. I don't know that anyone yelled at me, but it was like, I got to be real careful about this. So
yeah, because you could be right like 5 times and then you get
the one time you're wrong. Yeah.
It ruins the previous 5.
What's funny is like last year, I kind of did this with Hartman. There was an RPO that he didn't hit against like Tennessee State. And I wasn't even saying like he should throw it. I'm just saying it's available. And if next time you want to throw it, go for it. And Jalen Sneed's coach hit me up like he hit me up, and it wasn't even on DM. It was in like replies. Like, I think he knows what he's doing, right? Kind of thing. Like he hasn't thrown an interception yet. And then a couple games later, he started throwing a ton of interceptions.
Yeah.
Hey, Dante Vaughn's dad once replied to Luke.
Oh yeah. What happened there?
That wasn't even like he went looking for that tweet. I went
years after the fact.
Yeah, I went to the Georgia Clemson game to kick off the 2021 season with a couple of my friends, and that was when Justin Ross was coming off his injury.
Yeah,
and I was sitting like right in the corner of the end zone where Clemson was warming up. I tweeted something to the effect of like, Justin Ross back in action, like somewhere Dante Vaughn weeps. And like 2 days later, I got a response from Dante Sr. saying something like along the lines of like, called me a name and said, "Ain't no crying in this house, hashtag South Memphis," or something like that. So he wanted to make a point that there's no crying in South Memphis. So he's standing up for his son.
He had some choice words for you. I'm trying to find it right now.
It's, like it's tough, man. Like sometimes you put yourself out there, and if you're wrong, like that's the thing, you got to be careful, because if you're wrong, like you're legitimately wrong.
I found it. I found it.
I think he had been done playing football for 3 years by that point.
So this tweet came out in 2021, and you said, "Yeah, watching Justin Ross warm up in front of me at Bank of America Stadium somewhere, Dante Vaughn weeps. Lewis Vaughn, B word, ain't no weeping over here. Hashtag 901 South Memphis." So I don't know if you're gonna be welcome back in South Memphis anytime.
I've never been, but yeah, I don't think that's on my radar.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And sometimes you get out there on the Twitter machine. And
Well, speaking of Jalen Sneed's high school coach, I think I actually got into it with him one time, well before Jalen Sneed was a Notre Dame commit. I think it was actually leading up to the ACC championship game. And he said something to the effect of Clemson was going to roll, which I disputed. Unfortunately, he was right. Right. But I remember
not wrong
yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And look, to be clear, I don't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with it. It was just funny how, sometimes it works out for you in the end. And that's what that is.
Yeah, and sometimes you tweet about Tyler Buckner needing to start again in 2024, and people really take it out on you. So just look at my replies on that one.
I've seen it. Look, I think everyone's a little bit testy right now.
Yeah.
I think
no fun to be
and
had.
especially before the Purdue game, they were testy.
True.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think when you're shocked like that, right, and you don't know where it's like. Anything could happen, right? Like I put in the preview for the game this weekend. Like let's spin the wheel on what Notre Dame coach or Marcus Freeman coach Notre Dame football team is going to do this week. Anything could happen.
Point.
Like truly, like is there any result that would shock you? Any at all? Like I guess the only one is like Notre Dame getting boat raced. Like that's not going to happen. But like they could lose, they could win close. They could win medium. They could win big. Like there's so many different types of outcomes that can happen, and you can't be surprised by it. Like I think for you, Luke, like the question that that Tyler asked you on the show after the NIU game was, "Is this the worst loss?" And you were like, the sad thing is like it might not be.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe it isn't. Right. And like, oh gosh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Like that's true. Like I think maybe there is a debate to be had on that. So, I mean, look, where are you at with this right now?
It's strange, right? Because I think when it's an opponent that like fans get up for, the team gets up for, Marcus Freeman has done a very good job of getting his team ready to go in big games. However, the letdowns are truly letdowns. And I think that is kind of where I'm at with this is just people got bored with the consistency of Brian Kelly. And like, to be fair, you didn't feel good going into big games with Brian Kelly 9 out of 10 times, but you knew that these Georgia Tech and Navy and even largely Toledo games, like those were going to be wins for the most part. And some of that, there was some luck involved, but like over the last 5-6 years of the Brian Kelly era, you felt pretty good going into those games. And yeah, it might not be super entertaining, but winning 54 games and losing like 8 or 9, whatever it was, that was a lot better than suffering through losses to Marshall, Stanford, and NIU. So it's kind of like there's two sides of that coin. The highs of Texas A&M coupled with the lows of NIU back to back like that, that's just a dangerous chemical mixture.
I mean, Ian Book's 30-5 would take. You're
not allowed to compliment Ian Book. That's another thing that I
winning got old apparently.
Yeah, winning got old.
Yeah,
and apparently just recognizing that he was a really good quarterback and maybe we didn't appreciate him enough means that I'm putting him on a pedestal and our program is sad because of it. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Love you, Ian.
Look, you gotta recognize greatness when it's there and put that on a pedestal. And I'd like to put VSR Media on a pedestal because they are the premier media company that you can go with for your small business or your social media page. They were founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. All right, for this next one, let's eliminate Jeremiah Love from the conversation. Right, he has been fantastic. He has had a tremendous season. Let's eliminate him from the discussion. Who has impressed you the most amongst, like, not the Ben Morrisons, not the Xavier Wattses of the world? You kind of knew what you were getting there. Who was the person who sticks out to you as like, this guy, I'm most excited about him kind of going forward over the next couple of years? We'll start with Luke.
So I guess I'll answer that in two ways, because one of these, it's only going to be a 1-year thing. But Jordan Clark, he's been way better than I anticipated. And really the dialogue him all offseason was kind of strange. It seemed like when he first announced his commitment to Notre Dame, there was an overwhelming consensus that maybe like Notre Dame's reaching here. He's not that good of a player.
Yeah.
Then it sort of came out, oh, he was hurt all of last year. And I think that has actually proven itself to be true. And he's been really, really good in 3 games so far this year. And I think he's probably playing himself into getting drafted next year if he continues at this pace. And that I just didn't think that Notre Dame was going to be in a position where there wasn't going to be a drop off from Tariq Bracy and Thomas Harper the 2 years previously. And it seems like that's where they're at right now.
Okay, so that's your one way, right? So you went with Jordan Clark, who's the kind of the underclassman type who you think is like, who just kind of stood out to you.
Yeah, I think honestly it's been Jaden Osbury through 3
That's what
games.
CFB Hertz says.
Yeah, and just his athleticism and instincts is really a dominant combination. And when I say instincts, I'm also referring to what seems like is just football intelligence. I think that there was probably a concern that he might get lost in that group of linebackers just because there are so many young linebackers who are talented in that room. But to date, I think he's probably had the best production. And I want to give some credit to Max Bulla as well, because I think he's done a really good job of balancing the usage of all those guys through 3 games so far. I didn't know what that was going to look like, but so far those guys have kind of all shined at various points, and there's going to still be some growth, especially amongst the younger guys. But Osbury's been the one that's kind of shined at the top so far.
All right, where are you at, Tyler?
Well, unfortunately, my upperclassman pick was Jordan Botelho, because I thought he had been outstanding up to this point. And for as excited as I am about Boubacar Traore, like, that is a big loss, especially for the run defense. But I'm with you on Osbury, but to go with someone different, I'll say Christian Gray. Now, he did drop maybe the easiest pick 6 humanly possible against Purdue, so that was a bit tough. But Greg, you and I have been talking about him since the spring. We're like, he is going to be a star, and he looked like a star against Texas A&M. He hasn't really been tested much against Northern Illinois or Purdue because, like, Northern Illinois wasn't really passing.
He wasn't even in the game, right? They literally took him out of the game with the way they ran their offense.
Yeah. So I think this could be a big weekend for him to kind of, showcase his skill set a little bit more, because I do think Miami's going to pass. And then next week could be another opportunity for him to step up and really make some plays. And offensively, I'm going to go with Jadarian Price, because Jeremiah Love is getting a lot of attention. For good reason. Jadarian Price has had 2 huge runs, though. And it's kind of odd, because I would have guessed going into the season that Price would have been the more consistent, like 4 to 5 yards every single play. And Jeremiah Love would be the hit or miss, where it's either a home run or he's stuffed at the line, when it's actually been the opposite. Love is getting yards pretty much consistently on every single time. Jadarian Price kind of runs into the line of scrimmage sometimes and gets mauled for like a gain of 1, or maybe he's just stuffed at the line of scrimmage. But the fact that they have those two guys is just so awesome. And Price could start and be RB1 at probably well more than half of the Power 4 programs in the country. So that's a great thunder and lightning combo. And I think that Gray and Price both have super bright futures at Notre Dame.
I feel like they could be like the Adams Procise tandem in 2015. Like it's different because, it was either Procise, and then when he got hurt, then it was Adams, right? It was never like combined at the same time. Frankly, it's kind of like that at times this year, right? Where I think it was 4 carries that Jadarian Price got against NIU. Not going to work. Please don't do that ever again. And so, but like, I think that has the potential to just be like that kind of explosive running back tandem. That's been really exciting. I mean, you guys have kind of hit up on the upperclassmen piece. I think something I'm monitoring going forward is I want to see Jaden Harrison get more of an opportunity in the slot. When I look at the film, I see him consistently getting open when other guys kind of aren't out of that slot position. And now the problem is that I think a lot of the routes that he's running are just kind of dummy routes, right? Like they're Notre Dame isn't progressing to the other side of the field on the route play, but just I think his suddenness, I think the way that he runs, I think he sets up routes in a way that I think is really effective for what he can do. So I want to see him get more of a chance. I think just kind of on the topic of wide receivers, like I think Jordan Faison coming back is a really big deal.
Yeah.
I think that is going to help them a lot because I just haven't seen Chris Mitchell get the type of separation that you would kind of have hoped for. So it'll be interesting to see Chris Mitchell get back in. And I think someone mentioned Boubacar. I think he's the one where he's looked good in the first couple of weeks. And now that Patojo is out, Boubacar has to, take on more of a starter role. I think we're going to see something here. I think the way that people are talking about him and the way Jamie has kind of consistently talked about him, like throughout the offseason, I think Notre Dame's about to see something there. He's got an ability. He's got long arms, and he can get around he can bend around the corner. So I'm really excited to see that. There's also, the Bryce Young situation. Don't want to shortchange KVA, who looks like it's hard for me to imagine that this won't be a KVA Jaden Osbury kind of duo for the next couple of years. It just seems like that's the direction it's headed. Beefeater ND08 asked, have not heard much about Cam Williams. What's up with that? He's on the scout team right now. So he's not really ready to be activated. Like he didn't even dress for the last game. He was at the game, but he wasn't in pads or anything. So he's on the scout team. Micah Gilbert, I'm telling you, hey, he looks the part. So Luke, where are you at with this game? Where are you? What is your headspace right now, given the last 2 weeks?
So I watched most of the Cincinnati Miami Ohio game last week, and I have to say, Miami looked very poor in that game. I have to, and that's a pretty big rivalry game for them, and it was at home too. So that does give me a little bit more confidence that they're up for this game. Still probably won't be enough to actually push Notre Dame unless Notre Dame is truly lackadaisical again. Mm-hmm. So I would say that I feel pretty good about this, and I'd like to think that Notre Dame just comes out on fire just like they did last week. But because of what you said earlier about just like the Marcus Freeman wheel of unpredictability, I don't know what to expect. So it's interesting because I've never heard an opposing coach refer to the opponent he's playing this week as we before. And Chuck Martin did that almost exclusively in every interview that he did this week. So that gives it a strange kind of feeling around it too. But I feel good about it. And we'll see if I'm singing a different tune halfway through the first quarter. But right now I feel pretty calm about it.
Tyler?
Yeah, I will say I feel pretty good about Notre Dame in this game. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but for all the reasons that I was concerned about Northern Illinois are the reasons why I'm not concerned about Miami, because I thought Northern Illinois matched up pretty well against Notre Dame. They could run the ball really effectively with Ontario Brown, and their secondary was actually good. Like, they had proven they were good. They brought back all of their starters, and I was like, man, like, Notre Dame is probably going to have to pass on this team, and I don't know if they're going to be able to push the ball downfield at all. I didn't ever expect that they would lose. And I look at this Miami matchup, and I think it's a perfect one for Notre Dame. Like, Miami can't run the ball at all. They're either second to last or dead last in pretty much every traditional running stat. Meanwhile, Notre Dame should be able to run all over this team because they literally can't tackle. It's a bunch of Dylan Thienemans on their defense, less athletic.
Shots fired.
He should transfer to Notre Dame, by the way.
He should, by the way.
Hey, Mike Mickens can fix you, brother. Just drive up 31. It's not that far. And we'll figure it out next year. But I just think Price and Love and Leonard are going to have huge days running the ball. And I said it this week. I was like, I think Notre Dame's game plan is going to come out and just run all over them. Get that comfortable lead, because I think Miami's been giving up 180 rushing yards in their 2 games against Northwestern and Cincinnati. And there's just no way in hell that either of those teams have running backs like Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price. So get that lead, go up 21-0 or 21-3, whatever, then start to pass. It's like the opposite of what most modern offenses do, where you pass early, you get those quick, easy touchdowns, and then you run the ball and run out the clock. Notre Dame needs to do the inverse of that. Run the ball, get a comfortable lead, and then start to figure out the passing game so that Riley Leonard has some confidence going into that Louisville game next week. Because, boys, that is a big one, and I am awfully nervous about that one. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think the line is like 3.5. Vegas has had no feel for this Notre Dame team at all this year, so I don't know what to make about any spread, but I think that one is going to be a tough one.
I'm not worried about the Louisville game, because that is a doesn't matter what it looks like game. Win however, right? Like, just like Texas A&M was.
Right.
Like, it doesn't need to look any kind of way. No one's going to be grumbling if it's 13-13 third quarter, right? Because they'll be ranked and that'll be a good team, right? So I think the like the dynamics of the situation are really what kind of hurts Notre Dame here. I do want to get to something. Mark with glasses says, I've only dropped in here a few times, but this show is pretty good. First of all, it's a good job by my 2 guests here. He says, he's a new subscriber. I appreciate that, Mark.
Shout out, Mark.
And if you're catching this for the first time, you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button on this channel. We're doing a lot of good stuff. Tell your friends. If you like this show and you like what you're hearing, tell your friends about Hit and Hustle and what we do over at Irish Sports Daily. Okay. I think the thing with the NIU game is not only did they hit the pass, that lucky pass.
Yeah.
And such a fluke, dude.
And I don't like to say lucky like loosely, but it was an accident.
Yeah, it was absolutely an accident.
He was throwing it to somebody else. Okay, he's throwing it to someone else, right? So I don't, it was an accident. I'm not trying to shade NIU. I'm just pointing out a fact. And I think that the way that happened, where they hit the long touchdown, and it was like, well, that's crazy, right? Like, Notre Dame gave up a touchdown. Like, I tweeted out, like, I guess it's not going to be 38-6 then, right? Because that's what I thought the predicted score would be. Then Notre Dame went 3 and out. And on the first play of the next drive, they hit the big explosive run. And it was like, what is this? And then they kick a field goal. So now it's 10-7. All right, no big deal. Then Notre Dame gets the ball back, and it's 3 and out again. And then they hit the long pass play. And I literally said, like, what is going on here? Like, what is the deal? Right? Like, and I think that for in the stadium, I think for the players, probably for the coaches, we're just like, what is happening? Like, they've hit 3 explosives on us now. We can't move the ball. And I think that just kind of like that all kind of built on itself. And like, if they don't hit that first one, I mean, there's a good chance the rest of that just never even happens. Right. And I think that is where it's just like, if you can just avoid that against Miami of Ohio, and you go out and score a touchdown, get a stop, go score a touchdown. It's 14-0. Floodgates kind of open.
Yeah.
We're going to say, Tyler.
What would it take for you to be back in on this team in terms of, like, maybe not achieving some of the things that you had hoped in the preseason, but how many wins, what types of performances would you need to see before you're like okay.
long term?
Yeah, like at what point in the season would you be willing to get yourself excited about what this team could accomplish? It because I think we're all in the same boat. We're like, okay, after that Purdue game, this team clearly has talent. Like, I don't care. Obviously, the Northern Illinois loss was really, really bad, but like a team that could dominate Purdue in that fashion, like clearly is talented, and they did go into Texas A&M and beat them. But like, it's going to take a while to earn back that trust. So, question for both of you: when could you see yourself like basically trusting this team again and thinking, okay, they could actually do some damage?
Where are you at, Luke?
I don't like my answer. I think my answer is winning in the Coliseum after winning all the games before that. Like, I honestly think it's going to take that much.
Yeah.
I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, what did I said it. And I've told you this before too, Tyler, like, the only thing I think it's just the history, based on history, the only thing that we know is that Notre Dame will lose again this year. And Marcus Freeman has found losses. He has. And so for me, like, I think that is true. Like, just win the rest of your games. If they go to let me say, I think this USC team is good. I think they're going to be a good team. Even if they were to lose this weekend, like, it's still like the 2018 version of USC might be the worst USC team of the last 50 years. I mean, they had like 3 walk-ons on defense that year, right? It was putrid. I mean, it was really bad. And Notre Dame, I mean, that was the least fun I've ever had watching a Notre Dame football game, I think, ever. Like, that includes this week, like that includes NIU, that includes every bad loss you've had, because it was like, are they really going to blow it against this team?
Right.
This team, like, so I hated that game. So I think if they go undefeated from here on out, and then they beat a good USC team in the Coliseum to end the year, it'll probably be for a playoff berth. If they do all that, then I'll start to be like, okay, like, I think Marcus Freeman can actually do this. Anything short of that, and I'll just be like,
yeah, okay. I totally see myself, if this team does win their next however many games, if they beat Army in Yankee Stadium and they go into that USC game 10-1, I think I will be bought back in, because it's like, wow, you actually did it. You didn't trip up again against these terrible teams that you should not lose to, because Marcus Freeman always has the team ready to play in the biggest games, like Clemson 2022, Ohio State last year, like the dud games. I mean, I guess Louisville was a big ranked matchup on the road, but a game of that magnitude against USC to close out the regular season with a playoff berth probably on the line, like, I actually have a lot of faith in Marcus Freeman that the team will be ready to go in that game. I'm not even saying that they're going to win, but they will be ready to go to play in that environment in a way that they haven't been in recent years. Because, Luke, you and I always talk about this, how Notre Dame just never plays well out here in California.
When was the last time? Let me ask you. When was the last time Notre Dame beat USC in the Coliseum when USC was ranked?
Oh boy.
I don't know if I was alive.
I'm gonna guess, probably if it didn't happen in, I have no idea how USC was in '98. If it didn't happen then, not in my lifetime.
USC was awful, first of all.
Okay,
but Notre Dame
not
lost,
my lifetime.
but they lost 10-0, so they were bad. When were you born?
97.
96.
It's not in your lifetime. No.
Yeah.
98 they were bad. 2000 they were bad. 02 Notre Dame obviously lost. 04 Notre Dame lost. 06 Notre Dame lost. 08 Notre Dame lost. 10 USC was bad. 12 USC was bad. They were 7-5. I think they probably had fallen out of the rankings at that point.
Yeah.
They were 7-4. Yeah. So I think that team was not good. Let's see. That was 12.
What a
14,
weird rivalry.
14 Notre Dame lost. 16 Notre Dame got boat raced. 18 USC was terrible. 20 didn't play. 22 Notre Dame lost. So the answer is 92. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And wow.
That's my first. That's my first game ever. By the way.
Well, that's a good one.
Are you first game Notre Dame game?
Are taking USC in the points tomorrow? Both of you?
Isn't the spread like 7 now?
It was 5.5 earlier this week. Michigan
Okay.
is not going to be able to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Georgia is terrible.
What it was 5 and so USC minus 5.5.
It was, yeah. Let me look it up right now.
Um,
But I want to take USC in this game because I really think that Alex Orji is a worse Brandon Wimbush.
Yeah, he's not very good. But you brought up that 18 game, and like the thing about that, they didn't play well, and USC fans didn't even really show up for that one because that USC team was that bad. Like I was
No.
at that game and remember it being like more than 50% Notre Dame fans almost in the Coliseum, and they still played awful.
Yeah. No, there was no reason for USC to even be close.
Yeah.
That was an awful team. The thing about Michigan is like this is for their season, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Have some pride.
they're 2-1, but like, you beat Arkansas State by 10.
Dude, they looked bad.
They didn't look good against Fresno State. They obviously looked terrible against Texas. I mean, Texas, it's 31-6. They had a Texas touchdown taken off the board. They don't look good. They look like a bad team. And so I think the fact that it's in Michigan, they're obviously just going to try to run it like 50 times. Maybe hit some play action passes. And the thing is like they can, in a way that like LSU can't, like Michigan can bully you on defense.
Yeah, their defense is still good.
Yeah, they can beat you up. And I think that's like there's a physicality to the way Michigan plays defense that USC doesn't really see, right? I mean, they saw it against Notre Dame and look how that went,
Right.
So that's interesting. Like whatever it is, like I would take the under. Like I think the thing that I'm most confident in is you take the under in that game. I think USC wins, but I would take the points. I wouldn't give the points. Like I think they'll win by like a field goal or 2 points or whatever, 4 points, something like.
Wow, it's down to 4.5.
Like 21-17 probably is what I would say. Mitchell Vahiluk says, "Wait, what? I'd argue Ohio State is worse than Michigan like this year. No, that can't be right.
That is objectively false.
Ohio State's they're a good team. I mean,
they're very good. They're very.
I think if you're talking about fans, maybe they're talking about fans.
That could be accurate.
But I'll listen to that. But
yes. He's talking about
fan base. Okay,
right. That is true. That is true.
I mean, Tyler knows you're a Cleveland, Ohio guy. You're Ohio.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had pretty bad experiences with Michigan fans, but I'll let anybody take their side of the road on this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend one side.
I don't have time for Michigan people. Like Michigans are just they can go away. I know I have a lot of people in my life who are nice people and they're Ohio State fans. I don't know any nice Michigan fans. Zero. They're all bad. So. Well, Luke, good luck tomorrow. I hope it goes well. The situation with your significant other, right? May that survive the weekend. I hope it does.
Fingers crossed. I think it'll be all right.
I think it'll be okay. Yeah. So with that, we're going to end it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Once again, if you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Or, whatever it is, we are going live. Jamie and I will be back tomorrow for the post-game show, as always. And then I'll be back for the morning after recap on Sunday. So have a good one, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.